Hi, I'm Marius from MWest Photography in Cape Town, South Africa, and in this video we'll have a look at the brand new Fujifilm X70. Now during this video I will not be mentioning all the technical specs on this camera, as you can very easily find that online. You just go Google Fujifilm X70 technical specs and within 1 second you'll have all that information. I rather focus on my experience by using this camera as well as what the camera looks like. So I'll show you very detailed all the angles of the camera and what all the buttons are for, so that you've got a better idea as to what this camera is about. I find that more important than just knowing the technical specs. So don't in the comment section ask a million technical questions. The information is out there, just go look for it. Okay, so this camera, I think they are targeting the street photography scene as well as just having a go everywhere camera that's small enough that you can take it with you. So it's about the size of a smartphone that we have today, and it can easily fit into my pocket like that. Now weight wise the camera is fairly heavy, but that's because it's well built. You can feel on the camera it's not cheap. All the construction parts on here feels very solid and very strong, and that for me is very important. Now when I compare this to my Fuji X-T1, I know this is way out of this camera's league actually, because it's a much more expensive camera. Now I've taken the battery grip off, because if you add the battery grip in here, you'll see when I attach that the camera becomes fairly much larger. But I want to compare it now to an X-T1. The reason for that is this is one of the cameras I'm using, and if you're already a Fuji shooter you'll find it very similar. As of all the Fuji cameras, the buttons, everything are very similar. So if you look at it like that, you can see the exposure compensation dial, the shutter speed dial, it's all very similar, the aperture ring right there. So going from this camera to this camera is very easy. You don't need to look for your buttons. They've also got, it's also a touchscreen camera, but they didn't sacrifice the buttons. They still got all the buttons on there, which is nice, which is a good move. And then also, before I forget, still want to mention on the X-T1, it feels like a little X-T1 because if you look at it like this, it's very similar. You just take away the EVF, something we're going to talk about definitely as well. You take that away and it's fairly the similar size. But if you hold it like this, it's a little bit thinner, the X70 compared to the X-T1. Right, so build quality and everything on this camera, great. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons a little bit later. But before that, let's first talk about all the sides on this camera so I can show you where all the buttons are and you get an idea what this camera is about. When you look at the top side of the Fujifilm X70, you can see right here you've got your hot shoe. Here you can attach your external flash as well as the optional accessory. The optical viewfinder also slips in right there. Okay, now next to that you have got your shutter speed dial. You can see it works very easily like that. Now normally on a camera you will find there the exposure dial. So you will have program, full auto, aperture priority, shutter priority, manual, and as well as some scene modes. Now with this camera you don't really need that, and it actually works great. I enjoy to do this on my Fuji X-T1 as well. It's more like the film days, it works very easily. So what you do is, here you've got your shutter speed, and here you've got your aperture ring. So because I can set my aperture, I can set my shutter here, I don't really need a mode on the camera to tell the camera this is what I want to do. So it works as follows. If I take the shutter speed here and I take the dial all the way to that red A there, I'm telling the camera, please work out the shutter speed for me. Now currently you can see there on my aperture I'm at 2.8. So now I'm in aperture priority because I'm telling the camera, okay, you're in 2.8, stay there and just work out the shutter speed for me. So I'm in aperture priority. If I take this little aperture ring and I take it all the way to the A we've got right there, now I'm telling the aperture, okay, now you're also in automatic. So now I'm basically in program. So I'm telling the camera, work out the aperture and work out the shutter speed for me as well. If I take the shutter speed down and I take it to say, I want to go to 1/25 of a second, I'm telling the camera, always stay on that shutter speed, but please work out the aperture for me, so I'm in shutter priority. So it works real easy. Now you'll also notice, I'm just going to take this aperture back. Don't like to see that in auto. I'll explain soon why. If you look at the shutter speed dial, you can see I can take it all the way to 4000. That is not the maximum shutter speed. It's not the fastest. You can go fast, and it's really important that you can. Now on the camera, the moment you reach 4000, there's a little button here at the back. You can press left and right. It allows you to take the shutter speed up all the way to 32 thousandths of a second. That is insane. Okay, so when you're shooting in bright sunlight outside and you want to use your wide open aperture of 2.8, trust me, you will welcome that very fast shutter speed. Otherwise you will have to use ND filters and all that, so you won't need to do that because you've got that very fast shutter speed. Okay, now right next to this you'll see we've got an auto button. So you just flip the switch. Now I'm in full auto, and now I've got control over my aperture as well as my shutter speed. Then next to that we've got our on-off switch, as well as a drive button here in the bottom, and then also the video record button, which isn't that nice. It's a little bit tricky to get in there sometimes. It's tricky to basically record because the button is very small. Okay, then in the corner is one of my all-time favorite buttons on my X-T1, and that's the exposure compensation. It sits right here. The reason for that is the way I love to shoot is I want to control my depth of field. As long as I control my depth of field, I'm a happy camper. So say I decide I want to shoot my picture at f4. Take my shutter speed and turn it to auto. Then I know the camera is taking care of it. I am in aperture priority. Now the cool thing is with this button, when I'm looking at the back of the screen and I want to make my image go lighter or darker, I just go underexpose here and overexpose that way. So you'll see there's the plus and the minus. And you can overexpose all the way to 3 stops overexpose, or to the minus side you can underexpose to -3. So on my X-T1 I love to use this button. I think this is the first button that will break on my X-T1. So yes, that is, I love it that they put the button there. It's also very easy to use this compared to this. I find to use this button on the edge of the camera quicker than coming here and changing my shutter speed. So I'm very happy that they've got that button there in the same location it's on my X-T1. Okay, so when we get to the front side of the camera, you can see right here, there's a very nice rubber grip right here. On the other side, we've got the built-in flash, as well as a very important selection button right here, which says MCS. That's for single, continuous, and manual focus. So in S, you're only focusing once and the camera can take the shot. When you go over to C right here, you're in continuous. This will be for your sports or action photography. And right next to that, you've got manual focus, where you choose the focus with the focus ring right here. Now, the focus ring also doubles as a digital teleconverter. So when you're focusing, you can use this to autofocus manually, or you can tell the camera to, when you turn this, it can jump to 2 different millimeter. It's basically zooming in. It's a digital teleconverter. So currently the lens is at 28 millimeter. Then when you turn it, it jumps to 35 and then to 50 millimeter. And then if you keep on turning it, will jump through those 3 over and over. So it's going 28, 35, 50, 28, 35, 50. Then it's got here your aperture ring, which is also very easy to adjust like that. When we come to the side of the camera, there's a little door for us. When we open that up, right at the top there's an input that you can attach an external microphone as well as your cable release. Below that you've got your HDMI port, so you can attach the camera to your TV to watch your pictures as well as your videos. Below that there's a USB port. Now here's a little handy tip. If you want to travel, and the camera, according to the specifications, they say it's about 300 to 330 pictures on a full charge. I haven't tested that, so I don't know. But what I have done is I have charged the camera via USB, but not with my computer, with an external battery bank. So normally in my camera bag, I have with me a large battery bank. It's about 20,000 milliamps, and it can charge 3 devices at the same time. And I usually charge my tablet, my phone, a camera, everything while I'm traveling. But I do have a smaller power bank. It's really tiny, and it can charge this camera. So you can actually carry it in your pocket or put it in your handbag and charge the camera from that. You don't need to take along with you a charger, and you might not have somewhere to plug it in, so you can charge on the go. So that's really good that that USB port is there. The camera is currently on a tripod, so I'm not going to show you the bottom side of the camera, but basically you've got the hole there to attach the camera to a tripod, as well as a little flap door right here where you insert the battery as well as the SD card. Okay, when I turn the camera on, you'll see the screen is articulated. You can take it out like this, and you can flip it up all the way if you want to, like that, to use it as a selfie cam, or you can take it down very low. It just makes it very easy to be able to take the screen out like that, to get shots you might not normally be able to get to, or to keep your clothes clean. Okay, so at the top here you've got a delete button as well as a preview button. When I press the preview button, you can see I can scroll through the pictures exactly the same way as I do on my phone with the touchscreen. And then here's a selfie picture I took, and I can pinch and zoom and go in for some detail there. maybe too much detail for me to look at now. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back out again, and like I said, you can scroll through the pictures and so on. Okay, so then at the top here, like I said, when we do the shutter speeds, you can use this to go faster than 4,000 of a second. You'll notice if I take it, there we've got it at 4,000, you can see there at the bottom. If I press this, there we go, 5,000, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000, and it goes up all the way to 32,000. Okay, I'm going to turn it back to auto. Then we've got here exposure lock and autofocus lock, auto exposure and autofocus lock. And then a Q button. Now the Q button is really handy. If you press that, you've got shortcuts to quickly go to, for instance, ISO, dynamic range, your white balance, your film simulation modes, your image quality, image size, noise reduction. A lot of stuff you might quickly want to change. You can do this quickly just by going here to Q instead of going to the menu. So that's really handy to have that there. Then you've got a display back button. For instance, when you are in, say, menu, you want to go back, you just press that. On display, you can turn off stuff on the screen. You can turn it to look like that. This is just to change the display around a little bit. And then you can see there in the corner, there's a little finger and it says off. So currently, when you press on the screen, it's not really going to do anything. Then if you click on it there, it shows you shoot. So anytime you now press on that, for instance, if I press there, the camera focuses and shoot. There, focuses and shoot. So it'll be very discreet to take pictures like this, and people don't see you pressing the button at the top, so you can use that. This is just to focus. So where you press, that is where the camera will focus, and there I've turned the touchscreen feature off again. So I'm really glad that they brought it in, but made it so that I can only use it when I want to, but still have all the buttons. I don't see the point in having a camera where everything is on the screen, and if it's very bright out, you can't properly even set your camera. So I prefer to have all my buttons on the camera as far as possible. Then at the bottom, you've got the function Wi-Fi button. That's very awesome. I love to send my pictures to my phone, so I'm glad they've got that in there as well. Then you've got all your directional buttons the same way like you do on your other Fuji cameras. So yeah, if I press on the up button, you've got your autofocus modes. This way you've got image size. If I press it this way, you've got flash modes. And then if I press down, this for me is really important because as a photographer, you are a storyteller. So if you don't have the focus point on the right subject, then you're not really telling the story properly. So for me, focus points, I change it all the way, or all the time. So if I want to focus on something there, I've changed my focus point. If I focus, the camera will focus there. If I press down and change it to here, then the camera will focus there. So it's real quick to change your focus points. On my X-T1, I've actually turned off the shortcuts and enabled all 4 buttons to use focus points. So when I'm shooting, I can quickly just go into any direction. I don't need to activate it by pressing down. It's always active. So that's also a handy tip that you can do. Now when we go to the menu, if I press menu, you'll see the Fuji menu is very easy to go to all your settings. You don't need to really search very long to find your settings. So autofocus settings will have all your autofocus settings, like for instance which mode you want to shoot in, the priority of it, the focusing, face detection, eye detection, all those normal stuff. Here's your ISO, your image quality. Now it's got a 16 megapixel sensor, which is more than enough. You can make a proper A3 print, even larger from that. So here's all the different sizes as well as the ratios. Your image quality, it can also handle RAW, and it can handle JPEG plus RAW obviously. And you've got dynamic range. Now Fuji is known to have cameras that have good dynamic range, so you can go here to dynamic all the way up to 400 or auto if you want to. Your film simulation, this is real nice. So you've got Provia, Valvia, all the films that you used in the old film days, you've got a simulation on here, and you can choose between the different ones that you want to use. I love to go to the monochrome ones, as well as the Fuji Valvia, which sometimes is a little bit very over the top, so be careful when you use that one. The colors can sometimes pop so much that the reds, there's almost even no detail in there anymore. So it depends on what you're trying to take pictures of, but I love to jump between these film simulation modes and then take my JPEG on the spot, and I don't really want to do any Photoshop work on it later. Okay, you'll see at the side here, it now jumped to the second menu set. So the first menu is, or the first few up to 5 is all the shooting menus. And then when you go further, you've got your setup. So If I go back here to the second screen, you've got self time, you've got interval timer, your white balance. Here you can customize your colors. You can boost the colors, add more sharpness. You can work with your tones, highlights and shadows. You've got noise reduction, custom settings. The control ring, you can adjust what the control ring in the front must do when you use it. You can use the touchscreen settings here. You can turn it on and off, as you can see here, but it's easier to just do it directly on the screen. That's actually pointless to have it there. Manual focus assist, lots of other stuff in here. I'm not going to go through all the menus. Movie setup, wireless communication is important. Also here with the shutter type, that you can tell the camera, do you want a mechanical shutter plus electronic shutter? If you don't enable the electronic shutter, you won't be able to go over 4000. So if you go here to mechanical only, it won't go further than 4000 of a second. So I usually have it on mechanical plus electronic. Then I know if I do need that extreme fast shutter speed, I know it will go there. But for sports photography, it won't work. You'll get that rolling shutter effect and you'll see some very weird shaped people in your sport pictures. Okay, so when I go over to the setup, here you've got the normal date, time, language, sound, screen setup. Here you can customize all the stuff that's on your screen. Like for instance, do you want a histogram there? All those type of stuff, you can do this in here. And button dial settings, control ring, touchscreen settings, power management. I do like to keep the camera here on high performance on. I know that it chows a little bit more battery in the end of the day. That's why on my Fuji X71 I bought a ton of batteries. So I know I've always got batteries sorted, but I want the best performance out of the camera that I can get. So I prefer to keep this on. So I know it chows more batteries, but yeah, keep that on. Okay, so yeah, format your memory card. So it's very self-explanatory. When you go through the menus here, you'll see it's very easy to find what you're looking for, and most of your settings are basically everything is on the camera, so you won't necessarily need to go into the menu that much. A lot of the time you'll just quickly jump to Q to change something here. You don't need to go into the menu always. Okay, let's have a look at the pros and the cons, the good and the bad. Okay, the good on this camera, I do enjoy the size factor. It's nice and small. It feels like I'm carrying a phone in my hand. I can carry it easily in my pocket or take it with me in a bag. And I do like the touchscreen, the articulated screen that I can take out like this. I can stand like this and take pictures in very low light. The ISO noise in this camera is awesome. So at very high ISOs, I can take perfectly usable pictures, and I can just be tapping on the screen like this and people don't even know I'm taking pictures. So I do enjoy that. I like the 28mm 2.8 lens. The 2.8 is awesome. And then I like that all the buttons are very similar to my X-T1, that I know exactly where the buttons are on here. Now, when I'm taking pictures, especially on a camera like this, it'll most probably not be, I won't be shooting this to go process later on. I would want to shoot my pictures on here so it can go straight to my phone or my tablet so I can use it immediately, because I'm carrying this on the go wherever I'm going, right? So I do enjoy that I've put the film simulation modes on here, because I do use it a lot on my X-T1. The JPEGs are so good, a lot of the times I don't even process, I just shoot it straight on the camera. So yeah, I can do the same. I do have the film simulation modes I can use on here as well. And it means I can shoot, activate the Wi-Fi, send to my phone or tablet, and I can use it as is. So I do enjoy that. Like I said, build quality, everything on here, perfect. I like it, it's a solid camera. I know I can take it with me. Now when you talk about the bad, I make it sound so bad when I say bad out loud like that, but it's not that bad. Okay, so the video record button on here, it's really very tiny. You can barely get your finger in here to press the button. That's a bit finicky, but I didn't enjoy that. Then the screen. I know they took the EVF out of the camera to make it as small as this. I can understand that. But if you're shooting outside, with the screen like this, it's really tricky in very bright light. So what I did was I gave it to my wife and I told her, I can't fit this X-T1, especially with my battery grip, it's always on, in your bag. So we can put this in your bag very easily. Tell me what you think. And I told her, go and play. And we went to the ocean and she could barely see on the back. She really struggled with that bright light. It was late in the day, the sun was busy setting, or I'll say 2 hours before the sun was setting, so the light was really bright and she couldn't properly see what she was doing. It was very hazy and very tricky for her. So without having that EVF, it makes it a little bit tricky. Now they have released an optical one, or I read online about the optical one that fits into your hot shoe, and you can look through the optical viewfinder. But I have no idea what that's going to look like, but that's going to be an option. But I would rather then go for a LCD viewfinder that I usually use on my SLR camera to shoot video with outside, so I can see I'm getting all my focus, everything right, because you do need to see on the back of the screen. So you can use one of those and you can fit it on here. You do get the ones that actually you screw in at the bottom of your tripod mount here in the back, at the bottom, and it clips over like this, and you just attach that to that. And then you can walk with it like this. So if you're shooting in very bright light, that is an option, but otherwise it can be a little bit tricky. Other than that, I couldn't really fault the camera for what it is. It's a very tiny camera. It's very similar to what I'm getting with my X-T1, and it's in my pocket. So for that, I can enjoy it. And like I said, I gave it to my wife to play with, and she had very similar feelings to what I've got. She did enjoy the size, the buttons being very easily accessible, and having all that power, having a shutter speed of 32 thousandths of a second. I can shoot at 2.8 in bright sunlight, take awesome pictures on here, send them straight to my phone. So that we enjoyed. It was just having a tough time sometimes with seeing at the back of the screen, and then this video record button, which is, I think they should have put it at a different spot because it's a bit small. Then when I'm looking at the camera, I'm thinking to myself, where is my ISO button? Because here's the ISO button, really easy to get to on the X-T1. Now when I look at the top of the camera here, they might as well have put it there. I know it says Fujifilm X70 there, but they could have taken that away maybe. I don't know, put it maybe in the front, like maybe there, or I don't know. And then rather use that space there to put an ISO wheel. I think it would have actually been a lot better. But other than that, real nifty little camera. Okay, so that's that for this video. And if you enjoyed the review, then you know what to do. Click that subscribe button and get all these videos as I release them. Now, if you are a beginner and you want to learn a little bit more about photography and you like my style of videos, then head over to my show called Digital Photography Today. The link is in the description, and you can go learn about your shutter and your aperture and your ISO and your white balance and learn how to properly use your camera. Then I'll see you in a video again soon. Bye.